Whether you get left for buying better seed or not is not my problem. But I've beaten my competitor because now you'll not be able to sell a bottle, but I'll be able to sell the sachets. I don't know, Ajit, whether that is an idea of getting at the wealth, at the fortune, at the bottom of the pyramid. Because poor man's fortune is only that much. So yes, businesses are meant to do this, and they perhaps will continue to do that. So I urge you to, so now, ladies and gentlemen, tell me, where is the opportunity at the bottom of the pyramid? If I ask you a question, I'm going to ask you this question. What is the quickest way of making money out of or from the bottom of the pyramid? Anybody's got an answer?
Improving the productivity.
All right. Anybody else?
Microfinance.
All right.
Finding the people's need.
All right. All right. All right.
Increase their income.
All right. All right. But I have an answer. I have an answer, a quick answer. By writing a book about the bottom of the pyramid. Right. I think just to sort of, this is a difficult subject, so it's just to, ease the atmosphere and just to a little bit crack a joke. But I agree, by increasing the size of the wallet. So let us look at why is it that marketeers are absent when people talk about this is a rural marketing company. Please believe me, they are really talking about 100,000 villages, and India has 640,000 villages. I don't know of a marketeer who has reached, other than ITC, who has reached below population level. So I want to just give you a flavor of this opportunity by first showing you another aspect of this and why there is absence of organized players. And you can see that 72% of Indian population is in rural India, comprising 640,000 villages. Of this, 60% of the villages have only 1,000 population density and 35% between 1,000 and 5,000, and only 0.7% with over 10,000 people. So therefore, this potential opportunity is highly fragmented, and it is dispersed and atomized, and it is very heterogeneous. Now you can see, if you go to the next chart, there are two basic problems with this opportunity, and that is that there is no cost-effective access. If I was to go to a village which has got population density of fewer than 500 people, the cost of getting my goods and services to reach that, let's not talk about customizing, let's not talk about doing research, let's not talk about figuring out what the consumer wants, and let's not talk about segmentation. Because if you did all this, the size of your target segment would become so small. You're not able to hear? Okay. The size of the segment will be so small that the cost of delivery, the cost of product formulation and delivery would be very high. So basically, the opportunity can be created. Other than writing a book on it, the way to exploit this opportunity is to find ways and means of enlarging the size of the rural wallet. the challenge is, ladies and gentlemen, very large. It is beyond the scope of any one entrepreneur, any one company, or any one section of society. It requires people, private, public partnership, people's partnership, to be able to get at that opportunity, or first create that opportunity and then begin to exploit it. Now, coming back to why are there low incomes in rural India, in India's villages, as you saw those incomes? Agriculture is the main source of livelihood in rural India. 60% of India's entire workforce works on Indian farms, but it constitutes only 18% of the GDP. So what does it say to you? That if there were 100% of working people, 40% of the working people have access to 82% of the GDP, whereas 60% of the working people have only 18% of the GDP. Now, this is the root cause of the problem. India is endowed with the second largest arable land in the world, and it is endowed with the largest irrigated land in the world. But it has a fraction of best-in-class productivity. We are endowed with multiple agroclimatic zones. We have the resources, we have the agricultural universities, we have the scientists, we have the meteorological department, right? But our productivity, and the land is alluvial, we have a fraction of productivity. So what do we, ladies and gentlemen, do? Let's look at the underlying causes. The first cause I gave to you is the fragmented land pieces. Starting, the average size of the farm is about 1 to 1.5 hectare. Starting from very small pieces into 1 acre or even smaller, going all the way up to more than 10 acres. But the number of those are very small, and they are dispersed. They're fragmented and dispersed. There is poor infrastructure. Even now, you don't have roads to the villages, you don't have electricity in villages, there are no hygiene conditions, there is no potable water, there is no access to water, not to talk about health services, educational services, and so on and so forth. So physical, institutional, and social infrastructure that is required to convert people as people into an economic opportunity is very deficient. Then the reason there's knowledge exists, if you go to Israel, there's a desert land there, there is very little access to water, but I've seen that in those greenhouses, they can produce huge amount of productivity. I saw a farm where tomato was grown. There were tons of it, I forgot the figures, but they were way beyond anything any other country produces on land, on fertile land, and with all resources available. So it is possible. We have the technology to get the output out. But what do they don't have? They don't have access to quality and customized